In cities all across the nation, we've seen 7 straight days of protests, some of them turning violent overnight. A number of police officers injured. From California to New York, tens of thousands spilling into the streets, and just like they have every day and night since George Floyd's death. An independent autopsy report out yesterday showing Floyd died from homicide by asphyxiation as we all watched that Minneapolis police officer's knee pressing into his neck. NBC's Jay Gray is in Minneapolis with the latest.
Hey there, and there's still an uneasy tension here in Minneapolis. Evidence of that, the situation here at the 1st Precinct, the police station in downtown Minneapolis, looking more at this point like some type of military installation, heavy barricades, the National Guard locking things down here, just like they are not only across this city, but so many cities across the country right now. Last night there were arrests here, most of those though for violating curfew orders. For the most part, we saw a second night with no real violence here, no significant problems, and that's something that not only police, the National Guard, sheriff's deputies, but the protesters here are applauding. They say that the violence, not only here but across the country, has been taking away from their primary message, a message that policing has to change. The way policing is executed across this country has got to change. And of course, they want to continue to honor the memory of George Floyd, who died just over a week ago. We know that there will be a public memorial here on Thursday, and then another one early next week, that in Houston, where George Floyd grew up and where he'll be laid to rest on Tuesday. That's the latest from here in Minneapolis. I'm Jay Gray. Back to you now.
The Reverend Al Sharpton expected to deliver the eulogy.